I'm Craig Johnson, and that's my house in South Minneapolis, where I'm privileged to spend a lot of time during the coronavirus quarantine. To keep myself creative, I've been making some short videos called Literary Lockdowns that mix together history, art, literature, and performance. This one is about Emily Dickinson, who we now think of as one of the best-loved poets of the 19th century, but that wasn't always so. She lived nearly all her life in self-imposed quarantine in Amherst, Massachusetts, and only a handful of her 1,800 poems were published during her lifetime. Her poems are all very short. They don't have titles, and she uses unusual punctuation, a lot of dashes, and includes a lot of slant rhyme, words that sound similar but not identical. So it gives her poetry a very modern and almost experimental feel for her era. The poems seem to me like quickly dashed off flashes of insight and observation on things like nature, identity, language, and immortality. They're intimate and personal, but somehow point to the metaphysical and universal. Joining me today, socially distanced at her home, is my friend Laura Salveson, who, like me and Emily, likes poetry, art, and gardening. So between each poem there are some photos from my garden, along with some of the neighborhood birds. So I hope you'll enjoy these 11 poems by Emily Dickinson. Thanks for watching. To make a prairie. It takes a clover and one bee, one clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do, if bees are few.
This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me, the simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. For love of her, sweet countrymen, judge tenderly of me.
Surgeons must be very careful when they take the knife. Underneath their fine incisions stirs the culprit, life.
Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home, with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplus. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of going to heaven at last, I'm going all along. In the name of the bee, and of the butterfly, and of the breeze. Amen.
I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you a nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog. To tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog.
I never saw a moor, I never saw the sea, yet I know how the heather looks and what a wave must be. I never talked with God, nor visited in heaven, yet certain am I of the spot, as if the chart were given.
A word is dead when it is said, some say. I say, it just begins to live that day.
If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain.
A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass and then hopped sideways to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all around. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head like one in danger. Cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home than oars divide the ocean, too silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap plashless as they swim.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and in the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school, where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain, we passed the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chilled, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity.